Bonjour mesdames et messieurs, bienvenue de nouveau pour notre briefing live sur EBS. Nous sommes aujourd'hui le vendredi 3 avril. Comme chaque jour, je vais commencer avec nos annonces. Je commence avec l'agenda de la présidente pour la semaine prochaine. Lundi, la présidente s'entretiendra par vidéoconférence avec le président Charles Michel. Puis, elle aura une vidéoconférence avec la première ministre de l'Islande, Madame Catherine Jakobsdóttir. Mardi, la présidente s'entretiendra, toujours par vidéoconférence, avec Georgi Gakaria, Premier ministre de la Géorgie. Elle parlera ensuite au Premier ministre arménien, Monsieur Nikol Pachinian. Et bien sûr, mercredi, elle présidera la réunion du collège qui aura lieu par vidéoconférence. J'appelle maintenant Stéphane pour des annonces sur la santé.
Good morning, everyone. Bonjour. Today, the Commission is issuing guidelines for a more coordinated approach to cross-border cooperation on emergency healthcare. It includes additional support that the Commission will provide to the national authorities, such as, for instance, the coordination of requests for cross-border healthcare assistance, co-financing the emergency cross-border transport of patients and of qualified teams of medical personnel, and operating clinical management support system to help healthcare professionals to share their knowledge and expertise. Then also today, the Commission has adopted a proposal to postpone by 1 year the date of application of the medical devices regulation. This should allow member states, health institutions and the industry to prioritize the fight against the coronavirus pandemic. The decision stems from the unprecedented challenge that we're all facing now. It takes into account the need for an increased availability of vitally important medical devices across the European Union, whilst continuing to ensure patient health and safety until the new legislation becomes applicable. Thank you.
Thank you, Stéphane. Maintenant, j'appelle Suzanne pour une annonce sportive. Suzanne.
Yes, hello, good afternoon. The Commission has launched a social media campaign, Be Active at Home, which tries to motivate people to be active in their homes while confined there. And they are invited to share their exercises and their new moves with people across Europe. This gives, of course, lots of room for creativity, using the tools you have at hand in your home, and also, of course, taking care of the posture. And I can confirm that books are very helpful during the crisis for many, many reasons, but some of them also help to stay fit. So this was my proposal on it, and more about the hashtag and the campaign in our daily news.
Thank you very much, Suzanne. You can see that physical books, real books, have a double value. Not only can they train your brain, they can also train your muscles. So good luck with that, Suzanne. Voilà, nous avons terminé avec les annonces pour aujourd'hui. Il y aura une petite séance culture à la fin du midday. Nous sommes vendredi. Mais nous allons commencer avec les choses sérieuses. Et donc, une question de Oliver Grimm. Bonjour Oliver, du Presse pour Adalbert. What is the Commission's reaction to the quarantine of the Rizona camp close to Athens because of 20 confirmed cases, I suppose, of the coronavirus? Does the Commission still think that the Greek government is capable of containing the risk of outbreaks in the camps? And what support should the EU and other member states offer to Greece in order to deal with this problem?
Thank you, Eric, and Selfus Oliver. Thank you for this question. There was a very long discussion about the whole situation in the Greek camps yesterday in the Libe Committee in the European Parliament in discussion with Vice President Skinas and Commissioner Johansson. So let me just maybe use a few elements from that, in particular from Commissioner Johansson's report on what's happening in detail on the ground. So of course we are very well aware of the quarantine of the Rizona camp. And our assessment is that it's a well-managed camp and they have access to healthcare. So as Commissioner Johansson said, I think they can manage, but it's nonetheless a very strong warning signal. Now, it's of course the Greek authorities that are responsible for public health in Greece, but the Commission is providing massive support. And in particular, we've agreed now with the Greek authorities an emergency response action plan, which has a lot of very relevant elements, in particular in terms of identifying the people who are most vulnerable in this context, quarantining new arrivals, and the need to start moving the vulnerable people out of the camps as rapidly as possible. And it's now essential that this plan is fully and rapidly implemented. And in this respect, the Commission is again very much ready to provide continued support. The Commission's efforts to relocate unaccompanied minors together in cooperation with Member States, and of course with Member States pledging places, as well as the initiative we announced on voluntary returns from the Greek islands also need to be seen in this context and are very relevant. And then for specific, your specific question about the types of support, again, as you know, the Commission has been very active in providing support to Greece in terms of migration management, over 2.4 billion euro provided since 2015, and now an additional 700 million euro, which will be available to Greece. So lots of elements mentioned in the LIBE committee about what exactly these funds will be spent on. But a lot of the vast majority of these funds would be very much relevant in these circumstances in terms of increasing reception capacity, increasing also capacity on the mainland and on the islands, and deploying additional experts. And in addition to that, in addition to specific support for migration management, there is also the emergency support instrument activation proposal, which was explained here from the press room yesterday in a lot of detail, and which could also benefit the Greek health system in general. So lots of elements and a very, very active and urgent work from both the Commission and the Greek authorities on this front.
Thank you, Adalbert. Now a question for Balázs. You are with us, I think, yes? A
Yes.
question from Simon Friedrich Klatt, AGA Europe, Deutschland. Czech media reports that its government has asked the Commission to postpone its response to an audit of conflict of interest allegations against Prime Minister Andrej Babiš. This request is justified with the actual corona crisis. First question, did the Commission approve this delay of the response on Commission reports finding a clear conflict of interest of the Babiš family-related conglomerate Agrofert? And if yes, could you please also give a few more details about the time frame?
Indeed, good afternoon. Well, let me recall first that the European Commission sent the Czech translation of the final audit report related to the European Regional Development Fund, the Cohesion Fund and the European Social Fund to the Czech authorities on the 5th of February. Now, the member state initially had 2 months to confirm whether it accepts or not the conclusions, as well as the state of implementation of recommendations. In light of the current coronavirus crisis, the European Commission agreed to the request of the Czech authorities for a 2-month extension of this deadline.
Okay. Then we have a question for you, which is related to the coronavirus crisis response. It's a question from Aminata Niang, Agence Europe, et la question est en français. Où en sont les pourparlers avec les États membres pour héberger les stocks, j'imagine, d'équipements médicaux sous RescEU? Quand peut-on espérer que les premiers équipements médicaux de réserve soient disponibles dans un État membre ou plus?
Bien, ce que je peux vous dire à ce stade, c'est que plusieurs États membres ont exprimé leur intérêt à stocker du matériel médical dans le cadre de RescEU. Nous sommes en négociation avancée avec plusieurs États membres. Dans le cadre de ce régime, des masques et des ventilateurs seront achetés pendant la première phase. Et à ce stade, on s'attend à ce que les premières fournitures médicales atteignent les États membres dont les besoins sont les plus pressants dans les semaines à venir.
Merci beaucoup. Maintenant, une question pour Christiane, que je vois aussi. Une question de Vincent Manoncourt, Politico. Will the Commission review Israel's adequacy decision and South Korea's prospective adequacy decision in light of reports of intrusive surveillance measures imposed by governments in both countries to fight coronavirus? Christian.
Yes, hi, Eric. The Commission regularly assesses all adequacy decisions. Next time in the context of the two-year review of the General Data Protection Regulation to ensure that the data of European citizens is well protected in such data transfers. To our knowledge, the measures you're referring to involve the collection of location data of persons in third countries from telecom operators and not data transfers from or to Europe. We will, however, not comment on press reports as usual. As mentioned, all adequacy decisions are subject to regular reviews. When it comes to South Korea, negotiations are still ongoing and the aim remains to conclude as soon as possible.
Thank you, Christian. Now a question from Sanya Ketani Shah from Politico as well. And it's a question for Dan Ferry. Is the next round of Brexit talks happening? Is it happening next week as per the original plan?
Yep, thanks, Eric. I would have no update to provide you with right now. As I said to Lily and to other political colleagues this week, we are providing clarifications on our respective legal texts. That work, that contact is ongoing, and we will provide an update in due course on the next steps.
Ok, nous passons maintenant à une question en français de Hugues Baudouin, France Info TV, Radio Classique, pour l'autre Daniel, Daniel Rosario. Et donc, Hugues nous dit « Il y a de fortes perturbations sur le marché agricole avec des produits en très grande quantité qui ne peuvent pas être acheminés ou vendus. La Commission envisage-t-elle d'activer les mécanismes prévus par la PAC afin de financer la constitution de stocks, ce qui éviterait une chute trop importante des prix et du gaspillage alimentaire ?»
Bonjour Eric, bonjour Hugues, j'espère que vous pouvez m'écouter. Depuis le début de la pandémie, l'une des priorités de la Commission est de garantir la sécurité alimentaire et une chaîne d'approvisionnement alimentaire efficace et fonctionnelle sur le continent. Nous avons adopté des lignes directrices pour des mesures de gestion des frontières pour assurer la libre circulation des marchandises et aussi des travailleurs. Cela étant dit, la Commission est bien consciente des conditions difficiles auxquels certains de nos agriculteurs sont actuellement confrontés. Même si depuis le début de la pandémie, le secteur agroalimentaire de l'Union fait preuve de résilience et continue à fournir chaque jour aux Européens des aliments de grande qualité. Nous avons déjà annoncé plusieurs mesures visant à introduire plus de flexibilité dans la mise en œuvre de la politique agricole commune afin de soutenir les agriculteurs européens. Entre autres, la Commission a prolongé le délai de soumission des demandes de paiement de la PAC et a aussi relevé les plafonds des aides d'État pour le secteur. Nous restons en contact étroit avec les États membres en ce qui concerne leurs besoins et la Commission surveille de près tous les marchés agricoles et le commerce des produits alimentaires. Et comme le commissaire a eu l'occasion de dire quand il a rencontré en visioconférence les ministres de l'Agriculture la semaine dernière, la Commission reste prête à prendre de nouvelles mesures si nécessaire.
D'accord, merci Daniel. Alors ensuite, nous avions deux questions portant sur les affaires extérieures. Une question de Momchil, Club Z Media Group, Bulgarie, et une autre question de Hugues Baudouin. Ces questions portent d'une part sur le statut de monsieur Sergueï Koltirin en Russie et d'autre part sur la coordination entre l'Union européenne et les États-Unis, sur l'aide que les États-Unis ont annoncée à plusieurs États membres de l'Union européenne et pays voisins et aussi africains. Pour rappel, nous avons aujourd'hui un Conseil Affaires étrangères. Ce conseil sera suivi d'une conférence de presse avec le haut représentant et vice-président M. Borrell. Et donc, nous allons transférer ces questions à la conférence de presse qui aura lieu après ce conseil. Je passe donc maintenant à la question de Jennifer Rankin, The Guardian, a question in English for Stéphane. Please, can you provide an update on the EU ventilator procurement? The last step was the closure of the call on 26 March, with officials then left assessing bids. Is there any further news, and when do you expect to make an announcement on the next steps?
Jennifer, hello. For the ventilators, you know that the procurement procedure was launched on the 17th of March, and 26 member states participated. And the closing date for submission was the 26th of March. The bids that we received from companies have been evaluated, and the award process is finalized. Contracts for the selected suppliers have been drafted and are in the process of being sent to the selected suppliers. We expect some of these contracts to be signed soon. Next steps are now the signature of these contracts by the suppliers and the placing of orders by member states after the signature of the contracts. The delivery times and the quantities of the ventilators will be negotiated by the member states and the suppliers. However, taking into account the difficult situation of the market and the complexity of products like, for instance, ventilators, their production and delivery is expected to take time. Thank you.
Thank you, Stéphane. I have another question for you from Tommaso Galavotti, ADN Kronos. China is a superpower deeply connected with the world economy. They cannot afford anymore to deal with food safety with outdated hygienic standards. As SARS-CoV-2 demonstrates, the risk of zoonosis should be treated with great care. Is the European Commission going to address this issue with Beijing, notably as far as the so-called wet markets are concerned?
Thank you, Tommaso. First, regarding transmission at this stage, it's not possible to determine precisely how humans in China were initially infected. More research, which is currently ongoing, will help determining this. Independently of the developments related to the coronavirus, only a few live animals and unprocessed animal products from China are authorized for imports into the European Union. There is no evidence so far that any of the animals or animal products authorized for entry into the European Union from China pose a risk for the health of EU citizens arising from the presence of coronavirus in that country. Although closure of wet markets is a matter for the Chinese authorities, the Commission continues to regard any recommendations and advice of the World Health Organization as most pertinent. Thank you.
Thanks. And then a last question from Hanne from Politico, addressed to you. Are you aware of restrictions on EU truckers on the Turkish border? Is the Commission working to remove those restrictions?
Goedemiddag, Hanne. The Commission is aware of the complaints of EU hauliers crossing the Turkish border, the complaints that EU hauliers have raised regarding crossing of the Turkish border. We're in close contact with the Turkish authorities and follow up on this. Turkey has designated a contact point for transport matters, which is an important step in view of facilitating the crossing of the Turkish border. We're confident that the ongoing contacts will help to improve the situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Stéphane. One last question for today from Mose Appelblad from the Brussels Times for Marta. In fact, it's two questions, one of which we've actually already answered, I believe, yesterday during the technical briefings, but I will read them out anyway, and the second one we'll address. Yesterday, the Commission presented its new initiative, SURE. borrowing with guarantees by member states to provide loans to them for support of short-term employment during the crisis. It's a kind of collective borrowing based on Article 122 of the treaty, but not by the ECB, but by the Commission itself. In which way does this differ from the idea of Eurobonds or Corona bonds? That's the first question. And will the Commission consider a fiscal initiative based on Eurobonds during or after the crisis? Mose, we've already answered, I think, in detail the first question yesterday during the technical briefing. All the elements to answer that are online on EBS, so I'm going to ask Marta to briefly answer your second question.
Okay, very good. So just on your second question, I will just recall what we already said in the past, but happy to do so again. So the Commission continues to support all the institutions and member states using all the tools at their disposal to mitigate the substantial negative consequences, both from a socio-economic point of view of the coronavirus outbreak. And as President von der Leyen has underlined it, all options remain on the table. So it is important that those options are quick, effective, and based on a consensus among all the actors involved, and in particular member states. Thank you.
Thank you, Marta. Our line does not change. So that brings us to, or that was the last of the 12 series of questions that we received for today. But today is Friday, so if you agree, I will finish with a slight cultural touch, une petite touche de culture. Et à vrai dire, je cherchais un poème dans ma bibliothèque qui est moins bien rangée que celle de Suzanne que vous voyez sur l'écran. Et je suis tombé sur ce livre qui est beaucoup plus petit que celui que Suzanne a soulevé tout à l'heure pour faire du sport. Et ce livre, le titre est en allemand, Wie wird man Europäer? Comment devient-on européen? How does one become European? Du grand écrivain hollandais Kees Noteboom. Et ce livre m'a été offert dans une édition allemande il y a plus de 25 ans par des collègues alors que je vivais à Vienne et avant que je ne vienne à Bruxelles. Il m'a enchanté et depuis il sommeille sur mes étagères. Le moment est, je crois, approprié vu les débats qu'il y a eu cette semaine et les jours précédents cette semaine sur l'identité européenne et la solidarité. Le moment est approprié donc pour ressortir ce livre et vous en lire un extrait qui est de l'introduction sur la littérature et l'identité européenne. Choisissez votre langue d'interprétation, français ou anglais, et écoutez. Erlauben Sie mir zum Schluss einen leichteren Ton anzuschlagen. Einmal habe ich versucht, all dem ein Ende zu machen, und zwar auf die einzige mir mögliche Art und Weise, in der Fiktion. Ich wollte mein geliebtes Vaterland so groß machen wie halb Europa und habe es daher am vorspringenden untersten Zipfel gepackt, sprich der Provinz Limburg, genauer gesagt Maastricht, und habe diese südliche Provinz zu einem Korridor langgezogen, der weit über die Alpen bis nach Slowenien reicht, sodass die Niederlande sich über den ganzen Balkan bis zur griechischen Grenze erstreckten. Noch weiter zu gehen wagte ich nicht. Die südlichen Niederlande nannte ich diesen neuen Teil unseres Königreichs. Eine bergige Region, in der alles gleichmachende Fortschritt noch nicht zugeschlagen hat, wo das eigene noch seinen Platz hat, wo ein mittelalterisches Niederländisch gesprochen wird, wo die Fantasie noch nicht in einer unzähligen Einförmigkeit erstickt ist und die Einheit aus einer unverdorbenen Vielfalt besteht. Der Erzähler dieses Buches war das seltsamste aller Wesen, ein Spanier, der Niederländisch spricht. Das Buch hieß In den niederländischen Bergen und nach einer Reihe obligater Dramen lebten die Hauptpersonen glücklich bis an ihr Lebensende. Wer die Fiktion eines vereinten Europas Wirklichkeit werden lassen wird, weiß ich nicht. Und wann das geschehen wird, schon gar nicht. aber ich weiß, dass viele Schriftsteller vonnöten sein werden, damit es für 350 Millionen Hauptpersonen ein gutes Ende nimmt. Voilà, qui mieux qu'un auteur pour décrire la nature et l'ampleur d'un défi autant culturel qu'institutionnel auquel nous faisons face. Il le dit d'ailleurs ailleurs dans son introduction, et c'est un fonctionnaire qui vous le dit, cela requiert une magie qui ne peut pas se contenter de règlements, de lois et d'unions. Faisons donc appel aux magiciens qui sommeillent en nous. Bon week-end.